secret, and something else. Recap. Talk to me. Oh, I'm sorry. As an added bonus, we get a special introduction. If you've ever wondered how to tell a good story, you're not alone. Our next speaker, Tim, has struggled with stories for many years before finally learning from Greg Valentine's books, World-Class Speaking Secrets of a Great Story. In this final installment of this occasional series on storytelling, you will learn all the storytelling secrets you need to start telling good stories tomorrow. And now, for the second time, please join me in welcoming Tim Wilson.
Now to wrap up everything that you've heard and you've learned over the past few months, and a few newcomers, and give you some new thoughts and new insights about storytelling. The thing about storytelling is storytelling is all about the story character. That's the big secret. If you're going to tell a good story, you have to have a good story characters. And there are three basics of story characters. Three basics of story characters. Very simple, very easy. Use those three basics, you can have a good story. The first basic is that story characters need to be seen. Quick quiz. Story characters need to be
Seen.
Thank you. Seen, exactly. Now the thing we talked about is what that means. Story characters need to be seen means you need to be able to see it. You need to be able to see it in front of you. To create the scene, they must be seen. There must be a way to see that story character. And the thing is a temptation, maybe you've done this before in your own stories, carry a lot of details. The thing to remember is your audience is only seeing things for one time. That's it. You get one shot at it. So if you just have a few relevant details, you go much farther. So make that story character seen, just a few relevant details. Just a few points about what you really need to know. Like in the present story, Chinese woman. Pretty much all you know, all you need to know. It creates an image in your mind, and then the great thing is your audience personalized. You fill in all the details yourself. Your audience fills in all the details. So you'll think of your own Chinese woman, you'll think of your own Chinese woman. The whole audience will personalize the story for themselves. That's the power of story characters being seen, the first basic. The second basic of story characters is story characters need to be known. Another quick quiz. Test your listening comprehension. Story characters need to be
Known.
Thank you. Need to be known. What does this mean? Is there has to be a history. You have a history. You have a history. You definitely have a history. Your story characters should have a history. Without a history, they're a mystery. You want to make sure that your story characters have a history, because have a history, something magical happens. Something special happens when you have a history of your story character. When you know something about them. It pulls you in. It gets you involved in the story for a very simple reason. And that is that it begins the conflict in the story. Once again, it's a great example of present story. Got a little bit of background. He's moving. He's college, he's going through all these different problems, he's moving to a new place, there's nothing in there. That background is important to understand the story. If you didn't understand that background, you really wouldn't get involved in the story. So if you ever told a story or heard a story, people just jump in, you realize very soon that your audience disconnects, they aren't engaged because there's no history. So, not a history, they're a mystery. Make sure it's a history, make sure your story characters are known. And finally, third basic. The third basic of the story character, probably the most important thing. Each one builds on each other. Story character being seen allows you to see it. Story character being known is like adding a kind of a third dimension to it. This final thing really gets people involved and answers the question, why should I care? Why should I bother? Why should I get interested? And that is that story characters must be heard. Final quiz. Story characters must be
Heard.
heard. Exactly. That means dialogue. It's all about dialogue in your stories. Get a good story, act that dialogue. Now you probably are thinking of external dialogue. When you think of dialogue, you think of people talking to each other, right? Pretty much? Yeah? Some of you agree, some of you are asleep. It's all right. External dialogue, exactly. That's when people are talking back and forth each other. So one person talks, the other person talks. That's a dialogue. It goes back and forth. And that you heard when Prez was talking back and forth with his friend. And to the Chinese woman. But there's another type of dialogue, too. Just as powerful, some would say even more powerful. And that is internal dialogue. It's where you're talking to yourself. Say something like, I thought, what am I going to do? That's internal dialogue. Now you might be thinking, Tim, you just said a dialogue between two people. I mean, how can an internal dialogue be between two people? Well, here's the thing. There is dialogue going on between you and the audience, because the audience always answers. Anytime you say something up here, you've got an internal thought going on, the audience will answer. So if you say, what should I do? The audience is thinking, we don't know. What's he going to do? There's always this dialogue going back and forth. Some of the most powerful dialogue you can do is audience dialogue. Get the audience involved. Now, you might be thinking, Tim, okay, fine, seen, known, or heard, but that's a lot of bother. It's a lot of worry. I don't want to do all that, so I don't want to make that happen. That's fine, you don't have to do that. But if you don't make your characters seen, known, and heard, just know that your stories are going to remain flat, uninteresting, uninvolving. You aren't going to pull the audience in. They're going to go to sleep. I just heard a story about Peggy where the whole audience was like, all the way through. If you like that, great. Go for it. Don't have them seen, known, and heard. If you want to have your audience engaged, pull them in, excite them, get them interested, get them excited, get them really involved in your story. Make sure your story characters are seen, known, and heard. And when you do that, you're going to find something magical happens. Prez, I'm focusing on Prez all the time, but he's such a great example. Went all the way down to Tennessee to do a storytelling event they had down there. Thousands of people came by to see storytellers. Now you're thinking, why? There's something magical about a story. There's something even more magical about the person who can tell a story. If you can tell a story, you're large and in charge. You got things going on. People respect you. They'll come over to you. You have a power. You have a presence you never had before in your speeches. And it's simple. Simple system. Now, seen, known, and heard. You don't waste your time. You don't waste any bother. You just put the speech together. Process. Steps. Seen, known, and heard. Think of it as an Excel chart. Okay. All characters seen? Great. All characters known? Great. Are all characters heard? Fine. Great. Ready to go. Going to have a good story. And finally, you start to enjoy being up there. If your story characters are seen, known, and heard, you enjoy being up in front of people. You enjoy the process. You enjoy stepping out there in front of the stage and getting up in front of people and just having a good time. Just remember, make your next story a really great story. Make sure your characters are
Seen, known, heard.